Welcome to Ex Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Ex Machina. In the house tonight is Robbie Rip Rains, my brother from South Carolina. Robbie, how the heck you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
Oh, live and kicking so far, but it's early. went and had a follow-up echocardiogram today, and I'll find out the results next week. But I'm pretty positive. I think it went pretty good. The new medications are doing good, so I'm feeling good. We've been going down to Silver Dollar City and walking around, and I've been walking up and down those hills and getting a lot of good exercise. So I feel like I'm getting stronger.
I'm just glad they got your medicine straightened out.
You and me both, man. I was pretty worried there for a hot minute.
Yep.
Looks like we got a full house already tonight. Got Boys from the Strange Road are here.
Yep,
Pontoon Patriots here. Randall Kildare. Holy crap. Roxanne Delgado's in the house. Kevin Bowe. Jeff Yarrington. E.D. Testerman's with us. He'll be with us on Saturday night. Arkansas Hog Hunter Dan is back with us tonight. Looks like Miss Lene's in the house. Northwoods. Hey, Northwoods. Hey, be ready for the X jokes. Don Donaldson, Thad Brown. Man, we got a full house. Sherry Porter. If I didn't call y'all's name, there's a bunch of folks in the chat. But, want to say welcome to everybody. Thank you guys for being here. I think we're going to have a damn good show for you tonight. Robbie and I will do our best to be entertaining. And if we can't be educational, we'll at least be idiotic. So we'll definitely try our best.
Guarantee. We can definitely guarantee that part.
Yeah, we can guarantee the last part, but we will try our best to be educational on the first part. Robbie, what did you find out doing your little bit of homework on the campgrounds?
Well, I couldn't find anything on quote unquote abandoned campgrounds, but I did find an interesting story. And some of you, when you hear this may ring a bell. It rang a bell with DA. He didn't quite catch it at first, but he did catch it. So it says, spend the night at South Carolina's most haunted campground for a truly terrifying experience. What's an adventure in South Carolina without a haunting? South Carolina's most visited state park, Hunting Island, isn't devoid of ghostly hauntings. In fact, many people reported being visited by ghosts or seeing apparitions at this park, especially in the campground and along the sandy beach in front of the campground and the lighthouse. So, why is that significant, DA?
Maybe because there was a large bipedal hairy creature spotted there just not too long ago.
About 2019, I think, and it was a very credible 3 witnesses. It was a doctor and his 2 siblings, and it literally walked across the road in front of them, and it was in that state park.
So, everybody says, did you say Honey Island? No, it wasn't Honey Island.
Hunting Island.
Hunting Island.
Hunting. So that was, I ran across that and I was like, that was not technically my homework assignment, but I was looking through my stuff for that, and I found that, and I just thought that would be worth mentioning, that it's haunted, it's a campground, and there's been reported Bigfoot sightings there.
So some of y'all out there in listening have been sending me stuff on email. Miss Lene sent me stuff. I've got a couple other emails that are extremely interesting. Apparently, this is not a local phenomenon. It's happened in Illinois. It's happened in Georgia. It's happened in Oklahoma. It's happened in Texas. It's happening pretty much everywhere the Army Corps of Engineers has land. They're shutting down remote campgrounds, and not really stating a reason. And they're not doing anything else to develop the land. Some of these have been abandoned for years. But here's the really funny part. They're not saying why, and they're just very quietly taking them off the maps. So if you know where those campgrounds are, they're probably going to disappear off Google Maps and everything in the very near future. You might want to make sure your memory is good on where some of these places are. Noah and I actually went down to Big Bay Campground. It's in the Mark Twain National Forest down by Shell Knob, Missouri, and they just recently shut it down. So Noah and I, Sunday night, well, actually it was Sunday evening, we headed that way, but it's about an hour and a half drive from here. And it took us till well after dark when we got there. So, which to me was ideal. Um, so we get down there, and it's out on a little peninsula of the lake. That whole area is surrounded by water on three sides. And we get down there, and there's a day use area and then the campground area. And the campground area was gated off. We could not get back through there. But we drove through the day use area. And well, no one needs to pop on here, hopefully here in the next minute or two, so he can jump in and give his take on it as well. But the first thing I noticed when we got there, the absolute first thing I noticed was it was absolutely dead quiet. No insects, no birds, nothing on the water. That whole entire area was dead quiet. And for a warm evening in Missouri in the woods, that's uncommon. I mean, we should have at least had, night sounds of bugs or crickets or what have you. Nothing.
Kind of like another place we went to.
Yeah, kind of like another place we went to. There wasn't a soul down there, which I half expected to see someone down there maybe night fishing, but it is a very pretty area, but it's also very, very
24-hour service truck, maybe.
Yeah, there wasn't anything like that. But it did look like if I can get back up there with a mountain bike, that I can get back into where those campsites are. I'm going to try to get down there with Noah and a couple other folks to see, because I definitely don't want to go down there, shall we say, unarmed. Even though it's in the Mark Twain National Forest, that whole area just feels hinky. There was one point where I did catch something on eyeshine. I don't know if the camera got it. Hope it did. We haven't had a chance to review the video. So we shot some video while we're down there, and we're going to post the video on the YouTube channel. Didn't really see anything that we saw with the naked eye that would really be popping out on the video, but you can hear the sounds of the area, because we were driving with the windows down, and we stopped and was filming the area. But again, it was absolutely dead quiet there. Oh, Noah's bringing me something to drink. Thanks, buddy.
It's a little full, so much.
All right.
You see what the boys put up on there from Strange Road?
This is, we have a campground called Shawnee Caverns Campground. It's a weird cave system you can tour. Let me move the little thing there because I can't see it. There were definitely 3 people murdered out there, and it has ancient burials. Dude, that is almost exactly what we're talking about. Well, so what we're finding is that along especially man-made lakes, that the Army Corps of Engineers, especially in very remote areas, in places where there have been disappearances, are shutting these campgrounds down and not explaining why. They're just letting them go fallow. And now that's the one at Big Bay, makes 3 that I know of on Table Rock. There's one, I believe, on Stockton Lake so far that I found, and a couple on Lake of the Ozarks, but I haven't made it up to any of those yet. I've only been doing the ones so far on Table Rock. Big Bay, creepy, very creepy. There's another one over by Big Bay, but it's not closed. It's called Viney Creek, and it's still open, but the people that have camped there said it's just an absolutely creepy place to camp. And funny thing is we drove by one of the campgrounds down by Silver Dollar City just yesterday, and I was shocked to discover the campground was completely empty. This time of year for a campground to be empty, that's bizarre. Don't know why. I don't think I've ever seen one of those campgrounds except in the dead of winter, completely empty. Noah's warning me may have been a little heavy on the sauce with these drinks. Yeah, well, I guess we'll find out. Yeah, a little heavy, but okay.
Yeah, you'll get through
it. Casey Calloway says, do you think they're trying to stop some of the missing person problems? That makes a lot of sense, that would be exactly what they're doing. They did the same thing in LBL. I mean, there's still plenty of primitive campsites in LBL, but there's some of them that have been gated off and some of them that have been completely shut down. From the state of Illinois, Miss Lene sent me a whole list of places that were shut down. I also got another email list of a whole list of places down in Georgia as well as in Texas. So again, this is not a Missouri exclusive phenomenon. This is going on all over the place. David says I may have to camp at the one by Big Bay. Yeah, that one's called, when you come out there, it's called Viney Creek, and it's just a few miles from Big Bay. Big Bay sets on one side of the lake, then there's Shell Knob, and then Viney Creek's on the other side of Shell Knob. So they're just a couple of miles apart. What do the Corps of Engineers report? Corps of Engineers don't say anything. You can't get an answer out of them, and they make no public statements on why they're shutting them down. Now, the one at Big Bay, they did make a statement about, but that wasn't Army Corps of Engineers. That was the Park Service, because it's part of the Mark Twain National Forest. The reason they said is because the facilities were outdated. I don't know about y'all, but most places I camp, there are no facilities.
I'm about to say, what's to update on primitive campsites? Because that's what most of these are primitive campsites.
Yeah, most of the campsites in Missouri are primitive campsites. You go down by Eminence, Missouri, you'd be lucky to find one with an RV hookup.
Well, but that's the thing, though. They're not shutting down these, and I hate the word glamping, but you know what I'm talking about. These sites with all the hookups and that everybody's going to that are like still roughly connected to civilization. They're not shutting those down. They're shutting down these primitive campsites. Other than taking some equipment in there to trim trees back and things like that, what's to update?
Exactly. And here's another thing I noticed. Robbie, you were with me down in Joe Bald.
Mm-hmm.
You saw how far apart those campsites are spaced. In the summertime, you probably couldn't even see the other campsites for all the foliage. Now, the ones that they're keeping open, the campsites are right on top of each other. You couldn't shake a stick without hitting the next campsite over. And that seems weird to me. Sam Hine 11 says Illinois could be contributed to our horrible governor's money management. It could be, but it seems a lot of these are being shut down by federal agencies. Army Corps of Engineers and the National Park Service are both federal agencies, and they're the ones that are doing the bulk of shutting these down. The wildlife management areas and these Army Corps of Engineers campsites are all federally managed. And the feds have to get congressional approval to sell national parks land. So something hinky is definitely going on.
Well, we kind of talked about the money scheme side of it the other night.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to agree with you. I don't think it's something like that, because if that was the case, I think they would have already pulled the trigger on that, so to speak, because like you said, the prices have already skyrocketed. So what's the upside to it?
25 years ago, when Joe Bald was open, you could have bought a house with 4 or 5 acres of land on Table Rock Lake for $120,000, $130,000. Land was cheap down there. Now that it's become a much more popular tourist destination and Branson's on all the television shows, you can't touch a quarter acre of land for $120,000. And that's an empty lot. If you wanted to build a house with 4 or 5 acres of land down on Table Rock Lake, you better be a millionaire.
Well, that's like the cliffs of Joe Cassie up on above my county. And it may be true, but there's a joke goes around that says they won't even look at you for a quarter acre of land unless you got $1 million in the bank.
Yeah. Good luck finding affordable land available on Table Rock these days. That's all I'll say. You might, and this is a big might, you might be able to find decent land on the unpopulated side over by Blue Eye, because there's not a lot of folks live over on the Blue Eye side, but there's nothing over there. There's not a lot of amenities. You're a pretty good distance from Branson. You're a pretty good distance from Silver Dollar City. You're on the other side of the lake, and you got to go way around to it. But on the side close to Branson and close to Silver Dollar City, finding land down there is going to be hard. And if you do find it, it's going to be expensive.
I don't get the the big corporate money or not money laundering, but money making scheme with it. There's just that's just too simple. They don't.
Lynn Anderson said, why the Corps of Engineers? I thought they dealt with inland lake and river navigation. The reason a lot of these campgrounds are owned by the Corps of Engineers is because they were set up after these man-made lakes were put in place. Table Rock Lake, Taneycomo, Stockton Lake, Truman Lake, Lake of the Ozarks. Those are all man-made lakes. They all with all big hydroelectric dams, and a lot of those campsites are still to this day managed by the Army Corps of Engineers because they have control of those lakes. But it just strikes me really odd why they would shut so many of them down when camping, especially around Branson, is at a freaking premium, and it's just as bad, if not worse, up at Lake of the Ozarks.
Well, it seems like it's from what you're saying when people sending stuff in. It's not just Missouri. There's and I'm sure there's some in South Carolina. I just couldn't find any. I know, like I said, Joe Cassie Gorge has been shut down, where the primitive camping up there. And I'm pretty sure that's run by the Army Corps of Engineers. If I remember right, last time I went up there, I think there was an Army Corps of Engineers sign up there.
You could
I know
probably just do a Google search of Army Corps of Engineers campgrounds in your state.
I tried a bunch of different ways. I don't think I tried it that way, but like I said, I found the thing with the haunted campsite by, I think I Googled abandoned campgrounds in South Carolina, and that was the first one that popped up, and it's not even an abandoned one. So I don't
know. Justin Klein says Truman Lake is creepy. You ain't kidding. Truman Lake is very creepy. Another weird thing that happened to me in NOAA while we were down there at Big Bay. I've got a video camera that records it in low light, so we could film without any lighting. Charge both the batteries, took them off the chargers, and we head down there. We get down there, camera won't power up. It'll the video screen will come up with the welcome screen, but that's all it will do. NOAA tries for like 20 minutes to get this camera to work. We finally give up and just use our cell phones. But the low light camera would not function. We finish what we're doing down there, get back to Springfield. I sat down in my recliner and start messing with that camera. And NOAA had taken the battery out multiple times to see if it just needed to be completely reset. Nothing. All it would do was come up to the welcome screen and just stay there. I sat down on my recliner, opened it up, waited about 10 seconds. Welcome screen came on and went right to filming. Worked perfectly.
Kind of like my phone that was on 80.
We were down there.
Kind of like my phone that was on 80% before we get to Joe Ball, and we get there and it's on 2%.
Yeah, your phone battery died. I've had a lot of places where batteries die. And that one wasn't even that the batteries died. The battery was still fully charged. The camera just wouldn't work. Kay Bauer says, DA, I was looking at Canyon Lake here in Texas. Looks like closures are seasonal. I don't ever go, so I can't confirm. No worries. We'll get all this figured out eventually. But I'm really thinking that we kind of may have accidentally stumbled into something the other night when we first started popping this idea out. I think there's a connection. Why a lot of these parks, these wildlife management areas, and Army Corps of Engineers campgrounds are being closed to public use. I don't think it's accidental. I don't think there's rhyme or reason to it, other than the fact that something happened there, and they wanted to give the habitat back to whatever. You can call it cryptids, you can call it other large predators, you can infer whatever you like, but the fact that they're leaving the land fallow and refusing to develop it tells me that they're leaving it blank, leaving it empty and open for a reason.
Well, I mean, just like you said at LBL, when they did that and they reintroduced the wood bison. Why?
Yeah, wood bison and elk.
Yeah.
They've reintroduced elk here in Missouri down by Eminence. and the population has really exploded. KC Calloway says, "What do you think is causing the battery issue? Is it some kind of strange field in the area?" I could not tell you. I've got an not generator, and what do they call those?
EMF detector.
Yeah, an EMF detector. I used it out there when we were investigating the haunted bar, but I've had that with me, and I've never picked up anything. It's just we weirdly lose power in some places, and then sometimes electronics just don't work. Little Patty says, "DA, is there cryptid activity around the Cumberland River? If so, what type of cryptid?" Cumberland River. What state's that in? Because I think there's more than one state that's on the Cumberland River. I think it's a pretty long river. P. Bauer says they got to protect the spotted owl, lizard, squirrel. Richard Cox says, "A congressman told me there are plans to out solar panel and windmill farms in national parks." That would be dangerous because that would be cutting down forest land to do it. There's so much empty land that they really wanted to do that. I mean, good God, the states of New Mexico and Arizona alone have vast untapped open fields where they could put out solar panel farms and share the energy across the country. Little Patty says Tennessee, along the Cumberland River in Tennessee, Kentucky, that area is rich with cryptid activity.
Yep. Matter of fact, I think that Tennessee Wild Man that we did show on what's really out there, I think a lot of that is right on that Cumberland River, if I remember right. So, I mean, Tennessee's eat up with cryptid sightings.
David By commented about them releasing grizzlies up in the Pacific Northeast. I think that's a bad idea. You're introducing a predator back into an area that it was killed out of. So when it can't find enough to eat, it's probably going to put long pig on the menu.
Yeah, it'll find something.
Yeah, it's going to eat. The thing's going to find something to eat. And if game is scarce, they'll find something else. It might be slow hikers. It might be kids playing in a backyard. It could be your pets. But if there's no large prey in the area to support that thing, support grizzlies when they release it into those areas, they're going to find something to eat. Kay Bauer says Sam Houston down in South Texas is supposed to be full of Dogman and Bigfoot. I don't know, never been. I haven't been down to the Sam Houston National, but I've been in the East, the Texas, the big thicket country of East Texas, and that place is, that place is Dogman and Bigfoot central, from what I hear.
Well, there's multiple stories from Border Patrol agents, Texas Rangers, the cartel themselves, people that the cartel uses, of being attacked by dogmen in that area along the border down around there.
Little Patty says, "What type of cryptids?" In Tennessee and Kentucky, you get the gamut. You get dogmen, you get Bigfoot sightings. They've had aliens. They've got the sheep squatch that's seen in the Appalachians.
Yep, Jessica's doing a show about that. I can't remember when, but I saw that was one of her next shows was about the sheep squatch in Tennessee. So you might want to check that out.
Definitely. But if it's showed up on the cryptid radar anywhere, it'll show up in Tennessee and in Kentucky.
And KC, next show is up and ready. I've just got to get it. It'll probably go out Friday morning around 8:00. I just got the artwork from Taylor, so everything is ready to go. I've just got to upload it and set it to go. So it'll probably do it after we get off the show tonight. So it'll be ready to go Friday morning. It's on the Jersey Devil.
Nice. So when we first drove down to Big Bend on Sunday, to Big Bay, Noah and I drove down. There was just the two of us, and of course, no, we did not go unarmed. So no worries there. But when we first got there,
no doubt.
Yeah, when we first got there and started pulling down into the place, The place just was extremely quiet. Like I said, we didn't hear anything, didn't see any roadkill, didn't see any animals. It was just oddly devoid of everything. And I didn't really get the heebie-jeebies until shortly before we left. But Noah said he felt like we were being watched the whole time we were there. But there was one point where I clearly saw eyes shine pretty dang high off the ground, like the 8, 9, 10 foot range somewhere off to the left. I don't know if the camera picked it up. But we will post that video probably in the next couple of days. It won't be a super long video, 10 to 15 minutes. And if y'all get a chance to watch it, we would love you guys to post in the comments if you see anything. But if you do see something, post a time index so we know where to go back and look. Like I said, we haven't had a chance to go over it much yet. But I think, more eyes on it, the better. So we should have that up real soon.
Well, you talk about feeling like you were being watched. That's the way I felt last weekend in Georgia when we were out in the woods. Like I told you, we stepped out of the vehicle and it was stepping into that vacuum. Nothing, no sound, nothing. So that's an eerie feeling when you step out of the vehicle. That was the way it was when we stepped out of the car at Joe Bald. Because you asked me, okay, what strikes you? And I said, it's quiet. Really quiet. It's stuff like that, it sticks with you.
Yeah, it does. Dad Brown says he trained in Sam Houston. He's told not to go out after dark alone or you'll go missing. Well, that's pretty interesting if the military is telling you whatever you do, don't go out after dark.
Well, see, that's the thing. The military's going to tell they're going to tell, you know this, you were in the military. They're going to tell you while you're in the military what you need to know to try to keep you safe, but they ain't going to tell us average Joes.
Civilians. KC Calloway says, how many stories have you heard of things chomping on roadkill? Lots of stuff. But down there near that the big near Big Bay, nothing. And we didn't see anything. Jordan Mutter says, talk about quiet. The last time we were in Joe Bald, it was dead quiet. Yeah, it was absolutely still at Joe Bald. The only sound you could hear that was anything at all was the sound of the wind rustling through the trees.
What I found, I guess, scary and fascinating at the same time was it was like a bubble. It was quiet around where we were at, but across the lake you could hear what you should have been hearing where we were at. And that was what was so weird about it. It was just like, I don't know, it was just like the sound all the way around us except for the area we were in. That was weird.
Yeah, when we were at Joe Bald, standing there in the camp itself, there was nothing. But like across the water, over where you could see, like you could hear crickets and night sounds and everything. But it was outside the park. It was well outside the park. It wasn't anywhere near it.
And we know there were animals in there because we saw 3 or 4 deer while we were in there. Saw squirrels, but they weren't making any sounds.
Well, we only saw the deer during the day. At night, we didn't see anything.
Yeah, but it was still quiet during the day, too.
True, it was dead quiet during the day.
Yeah.
Hooter Transport says, grizzlies love Birkenstocks. They add fiber to hiker diets. That's funny. The last time Noah and I were down at Joe Bald, I know we mentioned this before, but I think it bears mentioning again. When we first got there, we were there setting up the camera to do a little filming. We were going to shoot a couple shorts for the channel. And they're over by where the boat launch is. We're down where we parked the first time, Robbie. Over by where that 24-hour service vehicle was parked. There were 4 or 5 cars over there, and there were people playing with their dogs and letting their kids play. There was probably a dozen people over there by the boat launch. Noah and I set up, and we were, shooting, trying different shots, and checking the lighting and stuff. And the sun was starting to get lower in the sky, and I looked up and looked over there, and they were gone. As soon as that sun started to get low in the sky, they vanished.
Yeah, you watch the locals.
Yeah, they beat feet out of there. There wasn't a soul but me and Noah once the sun started dipping below the horizon. And it kind of got dark quick because the sun was still pretty high in the sky. But directly, Robbie, directly across from Joe Bald, there's that ridge line. Mm-hmm. So it kind of disappeared at that ridge line. The sun was still technically up, but it got dark in that park pretty fast. And about the time the shadows started getting long, we both started getting that heebie-jeebie feeling like something was watching us. So we packed up our crap and started heading for the car. And needless to say, I had a camera bag in one hand, and my other hand was resting on the butt of my pistol.
On the 2-time World War champion.
That one, yep, that was the one. Edward Kung Fu Mashburn says, "Hey, DA, I missed it. It rolled away." Says, "Hey, D and Robbie, God bless you and your families and everyone in chat." Thank you, Edward. You too, man. Thank you so much for that. There's a good comment. Wyatt says, "We were on Table Rock, and I swear it was quiet on one side of the lake, and you could hear sounds on the opposite side. Funny thing is, we heard wood knock on the quiet side."
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Where we were at, it was dead quiet, but you could hear sound all the way around us.
Well, when we were in the Big Bay area, I did that tongue popping thing, and I don't know, for some reason my crisp microphone filter blocks it out, so I can't do it on here. But Robbie can tell you, I can do it pretty loud. I did it like 2 or 3 times, and it was right after that the feeling of the park changed. That's when I was like, "Yeah, I think we're being watched." And Noah was like, "I've been telling you we've been being watched for a while."
Well, that's true, because we were definitely being watched when you did it at the conference in Gatlinburg. Because within a 50-foot radius, everybody just stopped and turned around and stared at us. I was like,
"Yeah, it'll get your attention."
That guy did it.
KC says, "Do you guys use lights when you use red lights when you investigate?" Depends on the area. A lot of times we don't use flashlights at all unless we just really need to. But I have been playing with like red light filters and stuff. But primarily, I try to keep the lights off, unless I've got to check an area thoroughly. But for the most part, we go by ambient light. Yeah, and we didn't see the eye shine in Big Bay until after I popped my tongue. Where it goes down into Big Bay, there's a road that heads out onto the peninsula that cuts off the main road. And as you get closer to the park, I mean, the trees are almost like a tunnel over the road. The woods are thick on both sides of the road. It's only like 2 buildings down that whole road, and I think one of them is part of the park, belongs to the national forest, the forestry. But down this whole length of road, there's really nothing down there but these 2 buildings. One looked like a house, and it was lit up pretty good. But when we get down there, you'd roll into the park. About 30 yards into the park, the road splits and goes 2 directions. And to the right is where that big steel gate was locked in place. And I believe that's what goes down into the actual campground itself. But there were trails around it that if I had a small bike or even a small motorcycle, I could get in there. But there was no way I was getting my car through there. But we drove down through the rest of the park itself, the day use area, and it looked like it was pretty well maintained. I mean the National Park Service has done a good job of keeping that place up. There were bathroom facilities and stuff there, and it was very, very, like I said, very well kept up. But there were no lights whatsoever. It was absolutely completely dark down there. The only lights we could see were from a house across the lake. And there were several places where it looked like people could pull in. There was a little place where you could launch a small boat. But the place was just completely empty. And you would think even local teenagers looking for a place to park would have found that place, but there were no locals anywhere near that place. And I really would have loved to have gotten down into that old campground, because I think maybe you might have gotten more than eye shine.
Have y'all been back down to Joe Ball since we went?
Yes, a couple times.
Okay. That old store we stopped at, is it
still open again? Okay. It's open again. Remember they were closing it for remodeling. It's open again.
We opened the night before, and then the very next day closed for remodeling, which did not look like there was any kind of preparations for remodeling. I was just curious if that was still open or not, because that would have been kind of curious if it was still closed, because that's about the only store around that area, right?
Yeah, it's the only one out on that entire peninsula. Ryan Tremblay says, DA, one of my theories regarding the batteries and cameras are magnetic fields. Some places have higher magnetism than others. Limestone plays a key part. That could explain a lot of it because Missouri is a limestone state. I mean, we've got more limestone quarries than just about anywhere else. This place is riddled with limestone. That's why we get so many caves. There was another comment I missed. K Bauer says DA heard an argument that red lights used for coyote hunting is because they can't see it. So why would a dog man see it? Seems like and that's something else they told us in the military is we would use red lights because it can't be seen as far either. If you're wanting to conceal your presence, that red light doesn't travel as far as a white light. David By says we could just ruck into Big Bay. I'm thinking that's probably going to be the only way we're going to get back in there, short of taking a bike or I don't know if we get lucky enough to find it unlocked. Terrence Wynn says, what do you think about the Roger LBL story? Some dismiss his claim that he was a survivor, but I think it's possibly true. I don't want to say anything disparaging about anybody. And y'all can form your own opinions, but as a cop, there's so many holes in his story. I could not believe it. So I'm not going to say he wasn't there, but I just his story does not add up. Period.
Ryan says he lied straight up.
Ryan said it. I agree with it, but I wasn't going to say it. So
that's what I said. Ryan said it. I'm sorry, Ryan. Didn't mean to throw you under the bus, but
I was going to say something else. Completely lost my train of thought.
We lose trains all the time on here. They get derailed all the time.
Yeah. Richard Cox says, if limestone drains batteries, I wonder why that doesn't happen at Stone Mountain, Georgia. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of the limestone and the lake or water running over it. I couldn't tell you, but it does seem to correspond. I know it's this train of thought. What's that?
I don't know. One of the circus trains back in the Civil War era that got derailed and the wild man of Borneo jumped off.
Casey Calloway says, DA, could you drop some microphones at Joe Ball, not only for cryptids, or you might hear something from one of those vans? I've wanted to put some stuff out, but I've got to be very careful because that place is, anyone can go in there, and the locals do use that place for fishing. So I don't want to put anything out that can be easily seen because I would hate to go back down there to pick up my trail cams or my hidden mics and find them gone.
I mean, let's revisit that then.
Yeah, I'm going to take my parabolic the next time we go. I figured out a way to hook my parabolic into my little pocket recorder so I can use the parabolic mic and record what it's hearing at the same time that I'm listening to it.
In case there's new people in the chat that didn't hear this story of what we found when we went down there, we found a track, several tracks actually, but one really good track. We weren't really prepared that night to do any kind of casting or anything. So the three of us decided, DA and Noah said, we'll be back to pick you up at your hotel bright and early in the morning. We'll go to Walmart, wherever we got to go, grab us some plaster Paris, go back and cast it by as soon as we can. So I'd say we were probably back out there by 8:30, 9 o'clock that morning, DA.
Yeah, we were out there really early.
Yeah. Okay. Now, before I go any further than that, I'm going to explain where this track was at. That entire area around that lake at this time was nothing but these river rocks that, range from that big to that big. Just there was nowhere for any tracks to be made except for one spot we found. And it was probably at its widest point, 4 feet, maybe 4 feet wide, and maybe 6-7 feet long. Perfect track trap that we say. Go ahead, DA.
No, Ryan, this is what I meant. Not parabols, parabolic.
Same. Anyway, so at the widest about 4 feet, and at the longest probably 7.5 feet at the most. Wouldn't you say that's an accurate description of that little muddy area, DA? Wasn't very big at all.
No.
So, and this is literally like that far from the water. It's not on an area that anybody would just normally drive if they come down. And we were out there pretty late. I say we left there 9-ish, 9:30, or maybe even later than that. So it's not like there was a whole lot of. There was that one service, 24-hour service vehicle, and
well, there was 2 at first.
Yeah, but the one that was there when we left, it was still there. So we leave, we come back that morning, and there is there is a tire track through that footprint. Now, and I'm literally meaning through the footprint, because me and Noah got down and looked at it. I looked at Noah first, and I said, Noah, was there any tire marks in this last night? And he was like, no. Because I wanted to make sure that I just wasn't imagining things. So I was looking, could not find track anywhere. It was one set of tires. It was one side of the vehicle. You could literally see where they pulled up and lined up, drove straight through the driver's side of the tire was off on the rocks. The passenger side tires went straight through the track, curved over towards the road or towards the water, and backed out. One time, did not go straight through, but you could see where they backed out.
Right there, Robbie.
Yep. See how the track goes in and then comes back out? That's not somebody just driving through, because look towards the top of the track, you see where it's pinched together. That's where the tracks crossed over top of each other, where it backed out.
Yeah, and those were right over the top of those tracks we were there to cast. Last time we were down at Joe Bald, this entire area right here was underwater.
Casey, no, this was not the K9 track we found. This was an actual, like, that probably human looking footprint. The other print that we've shown pictures of that we found that on up in the woods. That was the big K9 print we found. What we went to cast.
Yeah, looking for that print right now.
So, what are the chances that somebody drove through there after we left and just happened to drive through that one small area like that?
Right.
And hit that track?
Yeah, that was deliberate. There's no other explanation for that. They deliberately drove in there to destroy those tracks. I wouldn't have been surprised if the guy in that truck was listening to us with the parabolic and said, heard us say we were coming back the next day to cast them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure. That's exactly what happened. I don't think that's too far out of there to mention at all.
I know I've got that picture of that track you sent me. I'm just trying to find it.
Hang on, I'll pull it up and send it to you.
Okay. If you could send it to me, then I can pull it up a lot easier, because I don't seem to be finding it. I need to do a better job of labeling these pictures, because I've got pictures. I'm like, I don't remember where I got this one. Dr. 45120 says, DA, sound amplifying shooting muffs work well. They do an excellent job of direction pointing to sounds. And if worse comes to worse, they will protect your hearing from follow-up sounds. That's a good idea. I need to start doing that. Yeah, David Bice says, I doubt Shaq was running around Missouri barefoot. Northwood says there are wolves in the area here, but the DNR denies it. They also denied it for years that there were cougars around here, but they can't do that anymore. They still deny that there are wolves in our area yet. E.D. Testerman, who's in the chat tonight, he's picked them up on his game cab. The red wolves, they're not timber wolves, but there are red wolves in Missouri.
I sent them to your messenger.
Okay,
not the group chat, just yours.
Okay. I will head over there then. All right, I'm going to share this screen then. Robbie, you're the one that took the picture. I'll let you talk about it.
No, those are the pictures we took off your camera, but I found it. So
yeah. Well, you can see the individual toes. There's 5 toes there.
Yep.
And the heel pad. That is canine, and that is a big canine track.
Yeah, because that's not a small knife. That knife's, well, hang on. Let me go get it.
Oops, not that one.
Yeah, that's the part. That's the one we took right after we found it. And for some background on that, Noah and I had kind of worked our way around, kind of followed a little trail that was following a game trail, and then we come to the game trail that it was actually following. Well, while we're sitting there looking at it, we both look across, and I'll give Greg the credit. He's in the chat tonight, because we didn't know what we just said. It looked like a bunch of branches, that were pushed together real tight. And Greg said it looked like a bird nest on its side. So that's exactly what it looked like. So just imagine a bird nest turned on its side. That's what we saw. So I told D.A., well, let's do a little experiment. So I got inside of it, got kind of down on my hands and knees, and told D.A. and Noah to walk back up the trail a little ways, and then walk down towards me and tell me when they actually saw me. And they knew what I was wearing, knew exactly where I was at. They walked about 10 yards, 12 yards, something like that, maybe, up the hill.
Yeah.
DA
Not
turns
even
around,
that.
can't see me. He says, dude, you're gone. I can't see you, and I know exactly where to look for, or where to look. So started walking towards me, and 3 feet-ish before you actually could see me.
Yeah, if I hadn't have known you were there, I would have been on top of you before I even knew you were there.
So,
in fact, I might not have even seen you until I was passing you, like like peripheral vision. So but if you'd have stayed still back in that, I would have walked by and never knew you were there.
So we theorized that was an ambush site. Well,
while there were deer tracks in that trail, so it makes sense.
Right in front of that. So while we're sitting there talking about it, trying, working it out, reasoning it out, I just I'm sitting there, I have my hands on the ground, or, like this, because I was leaning forward, and I just happened to look down in between my arms, and I started kind of moving leaves and brushing leaves away. And I look up at DA and Noah, and I said, lean back, I said, what do y'all see right there? DA said, that's a footprint. And then Noah said, no, that's a paw print. And that's how we found it. And that's exactly. So now that we're back up on full screen, y'all can see how big that knife, that's the knife that was laid. Now I got big hands, and y'all see how big that knife is. So that paw print was that far above and that far below that knife. So you can see.
I'm going to bring that back up on the screen again, because I changed programs so I can now zoom in on it. That's Jolly Roger from Scallywag.
So y'all can get an idea how big that paw print was. Like I said, I got big hands, and that knife takes up my entire palm and up into my fingers. So I don't know if I want to meet the critter who made that.
Well, you can definitely see the impressions of claws. So this is canid. There's no way this is a mountain lion.
Yeah, because if it was canid or a feline, it wouldn't have claws that indented out. They stay up or stay inside until the cat needs it. And no, Jamie, it was not
there.
That was not overlap.
Right
that is a single print.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is a double step. Bears do that a lot because they walk in line when they're walking really slow, and that's where you'll get those double step tracks.
And if you pay attention to the double steps, you can usually see the toes in the second step. Usually.
Karen said Jolly Roger's clothes is 4.75 inches long per the website.
Just shy of 5 inches.
Yeah. So,
and that track is actually a little bigger than the Jolly Roger. So that's at least 5.5 inches wide. And that is a big canine track. So even if it is a wolf,
well, like I said,
I don't think red wolves get that big.
Even if it was just
a wolf, it's a damn big.
That's almost. I mean, a 4.75 inch track. I told you. I asked Ken Gerhardt when we was down at the conference. I said, Ken, what's the biggest wolf track that you've ever found? He said, the biggest, absolute biggest. I said, yeah. He said 4.5 inches. He said, and that was pushing it. He said, that's the biggest one I've ever seen. So
Dr. 4520 120 says a cat will extend its claws if it's running or jumping. This was a stationary track. It was actually in that concealment that Robbie was using to hide from us on the trail. So that was where something had sat waiting for something to go by.
Or sat and watched us the night before.
Yeah, or sat and watched, because we got eye shine the night before, and it was in that area.
So, I mean, y'all make your own judgments. I know what I feel like. DA knows what he feels like. We don't ever tell anybody what to think. We just put the facts out there.
I was answering Noah.
No, that's fine. Jamie, I'm not 100% sure that it's a dog man or that's what it was, but we saw eye shine about 8.5, 9 feet off the ground the night before.
In that same area.
In that exact same area. And then we found that track the next morning. Like I said, I'm not going to.
And you couple that with the video we shot down in Joe Bald. Now, I've gotten some comments from people that claim they didn't see anything in that video, and that's all well and good. You know, and anybody can look at the video, and what they see is what they see. But there's something in that video. I can't attest 100% to say what it is, but it looks like a wolf head to me. And that was about 9.5 feet up on that tree. And that was maybe 30 yards from where that track was taken.
Yeah. So, and that, you know, the whole time we're down there, that's what's running through my mind is that Joe Ball breakdown video.
Dave Bauer says, DA and Robbie, what if the next time y'all go out like that and see suspicious vehicles, you get pics of the vehicles and tires for reference of track destruction and such? That's a good idea. I've got a telephoto lens for my DSLR, so next time we see one of those, I'll see if we can't get a like a zoom in picture without being too terribly obvious of what we're doing. EVD Testament says even our Missouri gray wolves don't make a track that big. Yeah, that would be a massive wolf. I mean, several hundred pounds, 200-300 pounds at the minimum. That's a big track for a canine. I had mastiffs before, and their tracks weren't that big. My English, who weighed about 170 pounds in his prime, between 170 and 175. Xander was a beast of a dog at, pushing 180 pounds. He was easily 175 pounds in his prime, and his paws weren't that big. He had canoe paddles for paws, don't get me wrong, but they weren't that big. Northwood says if a dog man or any other cryptid tried to eat my ex, it would die of food poisoning.
You slipping, Northwoods. It took you 55 minutes tonight.
He may have said something, we just missed it. Casey Calloway says, watch out, you'll have funny looking guys in black coming to your door. I've often wondered if that was going to happen. It seems like when you start getting close to stuff, people get warned off. And I haven't had anything like that happen, but I have had a couple of times where I felt like I was being followed. And I mean in the car, not like in a campground or something. I mean driving around. Kathy Dewey says, we've dealt with dogman stealing our animals, chickens, ducks, and turkeys. My husband saw one a few weeks later. We were in the lower upper peninsula of Michigan. That's an area rich with sightings of dogman.
That's up in Brian's area, isn't it?
Yeah. Northwood said we missed one in the first 10 minutes. Sorry, Northwoods. I'll have to go back and review the comments. K. Bauer says DA yet. Yeah. I would not be surprised. Rusty Riddle says they just released some grizz in Washington State. Noah was telling me the other day that he had read somewhere that there had been grizzly sightings in northern Missouri. Now, if that's been confirmed, those will be the first grizzlies in Missouri since 1850. Pre-Civil War, anyway, for sure. Because I was looking up information on animal sightings in the state of Missouri when I was researching the Dark Frontiers books, and it said the last of the grizzly were killed out of Missouri in the 1850s. Deus Volt says, what does a polar bear? What does a bear print look like? Bear prints are pretty easy to spot. Because they do kind of resemble a canine print, but they're much bigger, and the middle toes are much more pronounced than the surrounding toes.
They almost look like they kind of slant off to. It's like instead of being straight and flat down, it almost kind of like it slants off to the side a little bit because the way they walk, put their paws kind of down, almost like they're walking bow-legged.
I think I've got a picture. Let me save it real quick. There we go. Let me share this is a black bear picture, a black bear track. And again, you can see the where the claws were in the toes here. Canids and ursas, they actually on the evolutionary scale they're cousins, but they their claws don't retract. And somebody commented that bears have five. Smedley Do Right says bears have 5 toes, front feet anyway. And don't dogs only have 4 because of the dew claw, or am I thinking of something else?
No, the dew claw's like right back up here.
Launch Resort says pet that dog. But this again, we're discovering this is not a Missouri phenomenon. These campgrounds are being shut down without any warning, and in the case that Miss Lene found, it was just quietly removed from the map. What state is that in, Jamie? There's a ton of abandoned campsites here in the Chestnut Ridge area where I'm from. What state is that in? AC Calloway is absolutely right. There are big differences between bear and canine tracks.
Yeah. And too, that's something, and just going with the tracking thing that, dance with what brung you. If you're going to go out in an area, you need to know what animals are out there, know what their tracks look like. That way, when you run across something, you're not like, what is that? You may still be like, what is that? But at least you can know, well, that ain't a track from anything that's supposed to be in this area. So get familiar with what wildlife's in your area, what their tracks look like. Cause you can find that online. They used to put them on any kind of guidebook that you would get for the area that showed you hiking trails and things like that. They would have a big section about what animals were in your area, show their tracks, how to identify the sounds, all that kind of stuff. That's just smart to do that if you're going to go out and walk around in the woods in your area. Yep. There you go. And it's amazing how many of those tracks are similar. And when you start looking at them on the ground, sometimes things can really get, depending on what they're walking on, and things get like telling the difference between a lynx and a bobcat, or a ocelot and a bobcat. Sometimes it can be almost impossible, but you can tell that it's a cat versus a canine because of the claw thing. And you just you need to get familiar with that.
And another good thing, if you're going to be spending like time out in the woods, or especially if you're going to be cryptid hunting, you can go on YouTube and look up the individual sounds. Or there are a lot of databases like at colleges and universities that have sound recordings. You can listen to known calls made by foxes. You can listen to coyote sounds. It's good to be familiar with what animals in the area make. Because I know people that have been scared to death over a screech owl call, and a screech owl call will scare the crap out of you if you don't know what it is, as it sounds like all hell's breaking loose and it's coming after you. But there are other sounds out there, like a fox can make all kinds of crazy noises. Raccoons can shockingly make a wide variety of noises as well as can a lynx. In just about any animal is capable of making noises you wouldn't expect.
And anybody that's from the South that's heard a bobcat, that'll wake you up. I remember the first time I heard one, I went on a call. It's a little town that I first started working in, and some woman actually thought that there was a woman getting raped in the woods behind her house. Me and my partner stepped around the back of the house and started to go into the woods. By the time we stepped foot in, we heard that thing rear up again, and we both turned and looked at each other and said, "Bobcat, we're going the other way." Yeah, but it does. It sounds like a woman screaming bloody murder.
Mountain lion scream will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Noah's right. People often get scared of elk bugles. Yeah.
Well, especially if like you up in Montana and you up in them high hills, high mountain areas, and the way they drift and kind of in and out of the valleys, they're up and down. Yeah.
Northwoods is on the board again. Extremely large cloven hoof track in the campgrounds. His ex is probably camping there. That's funny. David By says that Noah, an elk bugle is a beautiful sound. Yeah, but if you don't know what the hell it is, it'll certainly put a hitch in your giddy up. You don't know what that is. You don't want to step outside your tent. First time I heard it as a kid, man, I was like, "Oh my God, what's that?" And Dad's like, "It's an elk. Calm down." Rusty Riddle says, Just got Odin's call. Just got it today. My brother's coming tomorrow, and he will read it before I do. He's a bookworm. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Hope you enjoy the book. Hope he does too. Casey Calloway says a bobcat sounds like somebody dying. You ain't wrong.
Sounds like a woman dying.
Okay, so you'd be surprised at some of the noises that animals can make. Porcupines will scare the living crap out of you if you don't know what they are.
Well, so a rabbit scream will. If you've never heard what that sounds like, and you heard that in the woods.
Ryan, they're saying actually that they're seeing more of those jaguars farther north. Supposedly, if I remember correctly, it wasn't just a few weeks ago somebody reported seeing one in Oklahoma. David Bice says wildcats make scary sounds. That they do. Born Not to Run says foxes sound like a dying old lady. Foxes can surprise you with the sheer amount of weird noises they can make. David Neal's out. You're absolutely right. Screech owls.
Mm-hmm.
Screech owls are pretty terrifying to hear. Noah posted a poll about if whether you like, shared, and subscribed. That's probably a good reminder for me to actually say something. The analytics are showing that about 40 to 45% of the people who watch the videos are not subscribed to the channel. Now, we do appreciate you joining us, and we hope you come back. But if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Just hit that subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything. You can do paid memberships by joining the channel, but just subscribing to the channel on YouTube doesn't cost you anything, and it sure helps us out a lot. Helps us improve our algorithm. Helps us get farther out there. And the more subscribers we get, the more YouTube pushes it in newsletters and things like that. So it's definitely something that helps the channel continue to grow.
Yeah. Puts it out there in front of more people.
Exactly. So please do so if you haven't had a chance. Like, share, subscribe, and hit that little bell icon so you know anytime we go live. Hey, we got 218 people right now. That is freaking awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. That is freaking awesome. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're pushing in on 8,000, right? I mean, we're not that far off of it, right?
Yeah, we're getting close to, I think, 7,700, I believe.
So we hit 8. We're just two off of 2K or 10K. I'll get it out in a minute.
Yeah, we'll say it eventually.
Yeah, the idiocracy is kicking in.
So the next time you make it out to Missouri, Robbie, I think there's a number of these abandoned campgrounds I want to hit. I've talked to a couple of guys, may have people lined up to get us into Combs Ferry, and that's by boat. Maybe just roll right up on the beach like the Marines landing on an island. We're just going to roll up with a pontoon boat, hop ashore. I think going in at night's probably our best chance too. Well, hopefully my low light camera will work when we get in there, but I want to take more than one low light camera this time. Rhonda, let me pull up her comment. Rhonda Montpettit says the idea track ID poster was missing the Greater North American Meth Head. Very true. They kind of look like regular human tracks, only they're sporadic, and sometimes they twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Poncho says bicycle in. The only problem is they shut that entire area down. We would have to park like almost back in Blue Eye to bicycle into Combs Ferry. I think our best bet to get into Combs Ferry after hours is to come in by boat. They're doing the dune sand walk. If you walk without rhythm, you won't attract the worm. Northwood says, DA, do you need a replica Higgins boat? Heck yeah, I'd love to have one of those. I need to get more low light equipment. I mean, because all this is just on, it's on us. So this is, we're not making any real money doing this. So, anything we do is just on our own dime. So I'm slowly collecting equipment. and none of it's expensive. So I'm buying stuff on the cheap, and we're just kind of building, adding a piece of equipment here and there as we can do it. Davis Volt says, "What do you think of the missing 411?" I think it's a very interesting, especially when you take the missing 411 map and overlay it with maps of known cave systems, and because the clusters of missing 411 correspond almost identical to the maps of known cave systems, and I think that's very telling. We've been saying for a long time here on this channel, we think cryptids, especially Bigfoot and Dogman specifically, use the cave systems not only for shelter but as highway systems, because we've recently heard it said that they believe the Mammoth Cave system could possibly run from Maine to southern New Mexico. And if that's not a highway system, I don't know what it is. Also, they're known to follow watersheds. And we've shown the map before of the Mississippi River watershed, all of the rivers and tributaries that make it in that contribute to the Mississippi. It's pretty much of the entire Midwest. I mean, it pretty much anything between the Rockies and the Appalachians eventually leads to the Mississippi. And if they're using those waterways, those are highways. Chance Strauss says, "Hello from Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada." Hey, awesome. Thank you for being here. Roxanne says, "D, I'd love to go on one of your next weekend outings. Shoot me a message, and we'll let you know when we're planning something big." Want to get with, I don't know he's still in the chat or not, ED Testerman. He's going to be the guest this Saturday, but he knows of another campground that he's been to himself, an abandoned campground that was shut down. Is also, you've got to get into it by boat. You can't get into it anymore by road. I believe he said it was either on Stockton or Truman Lake. Because I want to get with him and find out where that's at and go in there. He said if you go in, definitely wear your snake boots because it's pretty well overgrown. So that's something else I want to do. I want to get up there, and I think he said it was on Stockton Lake. But I'm still digging. I know that there's more of this than we originally thought, and I've only been doing one lake at a time. But thus far, we've already found 3 on Table Rock. And there's 2 other lakes, 2 other man-made lakes that attach to Table Rock. There's Lake Taneycomo and Bull Shoals Lake. Both of those can connect to Table Rock by other waterways. So there's got to be some sort of connection. And those are all very rugged terrain, very like finger lakes. Like if you look at the map of Table Rock Lake, it became a lake because they dammed up a river. So it follows the path of a river and it fills all these little hills and valleys around it. So the whole thing just looks like a snake winding through the Ozark with all these spines, these little peninsulas sticking out into the lake. And all of these man-made lakes tend to look like that. And I don't know if there's a pattern there because we get a lot of cryptid sightings. Because if you're a big predator and you can get deer out onto one of those peninsulas, it certainly puts them in a much smaller area and funnels them to a point where they're much easier to catch. So having cryptid activity on those little finger peninsulas makes a lot of sense. And every one of these closed campgrounds, all on a peninsula, all at the end of a peninsula. Isn't that odd? What do you think, Robbie?
I don't know. Apparently, I'm no smarter than Steve Lilly, so I don't know. Nah, I think there's something to it. We've said numerous times that we feel like they use the caves, they use the waterways. I don't know how these campgrounds figure into that, because obviously we just started talking about it.
Yeah, it's something we're just now finding out and figuring out.
It's kind of like we're slowly piecing together a puzzle, and it's like we find one piece that fits, and then we find another piece that fits, and then we started talking about the caves, then we started talking about the overlapping maps. Then we started talking about the tongue clicks, maybe what a lot of people were thinking were tree knocks were actually tongue clicks, and the echolocation. And, it seems like we're just slowly working together. You don't know, the pieces are fitting together, but we don't know why they fit together and what it means or that they are fitting together. And that's kind of the fun of it, is sitting back and saying, okay, I see the correlation, but why?
David By says, DA, do you have snake chaps? I do not. I would like to have a set, but I don't. I just wear thick boots whenever I go. Someone suggested Freedom of Information Act for 911 calls in the areas. That's a good idea. That is not a bad idea. But a lot of those, as Robbie can tell you, some of those back areas, you don't get any cell signal in some of those back campgrounds. We didn't get hardly any signal at all down at Joe Bald, but when we went to Blunk Road, we had nothing. David said, "Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that." When it comes to what people refer to as wood knocks, I think that much like missing 411s, I don't think there's any one clear answer. I think it's multiple things that they're doing. In some cases, it could very well be wood on wood. In some cases, it's either bone or antler rattling together. In other cases, I think they're much like a gorilla. They're slapping themselves in the chest. And then I also think they use their mouth, which when I was a kid, I was always outside more than I was inside. I ran around barefoot. I was this Ozark hillbilly kid. But I would mimic bird sounds, and I would mimic, just goofy noises I heard on TV, and got pretty good at making all kinds of weird noises. But there was always one that perplexed me that came from the woods at the back of our farm. And it was this sound, kind of like, how people can go and pop their, pop their cheek, but it was louder. And it sounded like it was a person making it with their tongue. And I started trying to do it. And I've got to where I can do it really not only quite loud, but I can make multiple different tones with it. I can, the whole shaving the haircut, I can do that, like shaving a haircut 6 bits, or I can do that whole bit with just popping my tongue. So I think it's more than one thing. I think these quote unquote wood knocks could very possibly be multiple long distance versions of something to communicate. It all depends on what's available. If they happen to have deer antlers, then that's probably what they'll use. If they got bone, they'll use bone. If they got rocks, they'll use rocks. If they don't have any of that available, if they can't find a solid enough stick, I think they use their tongue. But I also think these things are very good at mimicking sounds. Like I said, I was just an Ozarks hillbilly kid, and I learned to mimic all kinds of bird calls and stuff. So I guarantee you, these things living 24/7 out in the woods have learned to mimic some of these calls. And if they can mimic like, a rabbit in distress or things like that, they're going to draw other animals in. So I think it would be, since they're an apex predator in their area, I think it's only natural to think that they know how to use calls. What do you think, Robbie?
Yeah, I think from the time we started talking about that possibly being tongue clicks and echolocation and things like that, I think that opened a whole new can of worms as to what, it could be. Because it's like I've asked people, I said, have you ever done a wood knock? And they're like, well, no, I've thought about it. I said, well, have you ever just walked through the woods and tried to find a decent stick to pick up as a walking stick? Well, yeah. I said, it's hard to find one, ain't it? So they're usually rotten and soft and things like that. They're like, yeah. I said, well, unless Bigfoot's walking through the woods with a Louisville slugger, it's a good possibility that it's something like a tongue click. Now, that doesn't rule out that it could be what you said. It could be antlers, could be rocks. Well, they could have found it, broke off a good strong limb. But I don't think we can rule out the fact that I think if they're in the subterranean, I think that's what they're doing is tongue clicking. And if they're doing it down there, chances are they're still doing it up top as a form of communication. So
Check this out, Robbie. Mrs. Moon says, I grew up surrounded by orange and walnut groves in Southern California, and I swear those things were in those groves with that clicking stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
well, those are easy food sources.
And I told you when I started talking to Steve about, I'm talking about Steve on my team. When I started talking to him about mine, yours, and Noah's theory about this, he said, "Oh, I've heard it, and it is a tongue click." He said, "There's no doubt in my mind." He said, "It was only 15 to 20 feet away from me when it did it." He said, "It was not wood on wood." He said, "It was a tongue click."
Well, look at the reaction of literally everybody in that theater, in that room at the Bigfoot conference in Tennessee when I did that. Mm-hmm. I mean, the place went quiet, and everybody turned and looked right at me, like, "Oh my God!"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and people that had been out and heard that before looked at me. The guys from Small Town Monsters were like, "Holy crap, that sounds just like what we heard."
Yep. Well, you and I were sitting there talking to Eli about this theory that we have, and you did it right there. And the look on Eli's face when everybody stopped and turned around and looked at us that was around us just said it all, because we were just like, "See." Because I mean, it literally, it was like that literal or figuratively unplugging the jukebox in the middle of the dance hall, and everybody just.
Yeah, my filter on my microphone will filter it out. But if you guys watch that video that Noah's about to put up, that we filmed down at Big Bay, you can hear me do it on that video. I do it 2 or 3 times. Corey Cole, yeah, we've talked about that very thing. There was a guy that used a tongue popping technique to on the show Superhuman. He he taught himself to ride a bicycle by clicking his tongue, using it as echolocation. So if humans can teach themselves to echolocate, these things could do it in a cave easily.
Yeah. They set up a little obstacle course for him to do it, and he navigated his way around that course, just clicking his tongue, just as.
And granted, these stories are very difficult to verify because they come from people that work for government agencies, and they don't generally like to go on record. But I've heard secondhand stories from USGS employees who do deep cave exploration, who have gone 2 and 3 days back into a cave and started finding old camping equipment that's broken and backpacks. Normal people don't make it that far back in a cave.
And what did we say? Less than 2% of the Mammoth Cave system has been explored by humans?
And probably even less than that if they're right about it reaching all the way from Maine to southern New Mexico. If it's that big, they've barely scratched it. It's probably less than a percentage, a fraction of a percent. John Wayne Gates says, I remember hunting when I was a teenager and hearing wood knocks. Didn't know what it was, just ignored it. Didn't even come to mind until the last few years. Noah and I heard wood knocks out at Fellows Lake, just north of Springfield, just a couple weeks ago. We were out filming a couple of shorts for the channel, and we do promo videos for upcoming episodes. And if you watch my TikTok or look at the YouTube shorts on the channel, we have a bunch of shorts up, and we go around the area and film them. We were out at Fellows Lake, which is a populated area. There are houses out there. Now, granted, they're not super dense, but there are houses scattered around that area. And it's not far from Springfield. It's just like 4 or 5 miles outside of town. And while we were shooting a short, we heard wood knocks coming from the tree line behind us by the lake. And I'm like, did you hear that? And he goes, yeah, I heard that. And I said, wait, let's see if it does it again. And so I sat there a second. I'm like, do you think the camera caught that up? And about that time it happened again. He goes, I doubt the camera caught it. It is way too faint. And so we played it back, and you couldn't hear it. The only thing you could hear on the camera was wind. But we both distinctly heard it, out in the woods, just north of Springfield.
Miss Lene's got a question.
Shoot. Do you think the Mammoth Cave system is connected to the cave at Silver Dollar City? I would not be surprised. But as close as Silver Dollar City is to Joe Bald, If there's a cave under Joe Bald, I would say probably with about a 90% certainty it's connected to that. But I would not be shocked to find out that Silver Dollar, because they haven't completely explored that cave. There's shafts that go off in directions they've never explored. And some of it's pretty tight. You'd have to really get through some fissures and stuff. But the public part of that cave is just a fraction of what that cave, what's really there. So you know, if it eventually connects somewhere to the Mammoth Cave system, wouldn't shock me, not at all. The spring at Bennett Springs, Missouri, they released marker dye into the spring because where the spring comes up out of the ground, they released this tracer dye into the spring, and they were wanting to see where it would come up. And it had a very specific radioactive frequency to it. It's very small, very small charge. It was just this slightly radioactive dye, and wherever it would come up, they had people all over the place, looking for that specific frequency. It came up 6 months later in Alaska. So there's something connecting Missouri to Alaska by a cave, but it's probably all water filled. But then again, maybe not all of them are. Brian Barber says they do clap as well, and it sounds like catcher's mitts hitting together. I would assume they would make clapping noises. And of course, as a kid, you learn to make that noise with your hands. But I imagine there's a wider range. Oh, the dog just started barking when I did that. It's just me, Harley, you big dork. But I'm sure there's a wide array of noises that they make. If we can make it, I'm sure they can too. I mean, they've got hands and they've got opposable thumbs. I would not rule anything out. I would say part of it's chest slapping like gorillas do. Part of it might be striking their fists on the ground. There's a lot of different things they can do to make noise. What really I found compelling was Doug Highcheck when we had Doug Highcheck, the producer of Monster Quest, when he was on the show, when he was talking about him and his son being alone in a boat on Snell Grove Lake in northern Canada. And Snell Grove, the only way to access Snell Grove Lake is by float plane. It is hundreds of miles through dense forest to get to this one lake. So the odds of somebody backpacking out there to hoax him, very, very, very slim. Like better chance of winning the lottery, slim. So him and his son are back in this slough on Snell Grove Lake, and he said, him and I were talking off the air. We were talking on the phone, and he said I heard this weird like singing. He said only it wasn't words. It was just tonal. He said it was really, really odd. It was like high pitched, and it seemed like it carried all the way down the lake. I said, "Is anything like culling?" He says, "What the hell's culling?" So I told him about culling, which is an old herding call that the Vikings used to use. And you can go on YouTube and look up culling, which is spelled Kulning. It's hauntingly beautiful, but there are no words involved. And when he looked that video up, he goes, "Dude, that is almost exactly what I heard out on the lake." He said that it gave me chills when I heard that, because that was what my son and I heard way the hell out on Snell Grove Lake without another soul around for 1,000 miles. Yeah, Noah spelled it in there. Culning.
Yeah, that will be a bucket list place for us to go. Be Snell Grove.
I would love to get up to Snell Grove. David Bias says culling is beautiful. I love it. I do too. I could listen to culling for just as kind of like a relaxation music. Every once in a while I just pop it in because the one of the ladies that does it, her name's Joanna something. I can't remember her last name, but she's got an incredible voice, and she does entire like hour-long videos of different culling like put together to music, and it's just hauntingly beautiful. So if they've got any kind of vocal cords whatsoever, the range of sounds they could make, even without like verbal vocalization, just the range of sounds they could make is fairly unlimited, especially if they're good at mimicry.
Well, look at what that guy said about the Sierra sounds. Far above and far below what any human could do. So, I mean, that says right there, if that's what that came from.
Well, if you think about that, from the Sierra sounds, when they said that their vocal range was both above and below what humans are capable of, that also means their hearing is better than ours.
Yep.
They're hearing, if they're making that noise, they've got to be able to hear it.
Well, I mean, any animal in the animal kingdom, usually their senses are better than ours anyway. I mean, this is what sets us apart from.
Robin M says, greetings from Southern California, DA Robbie in chat.
Hey, Robin.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry, Robbie, what were you saying?
I just said, our minds are the only thing that sets us apart. I mean, we can't survive with our claws. We don't have any of those. We don't have, anything to protect us in the elements, other than clothes that we have to make. I mean, we're pretty. If it wasn't for our minds, we'd be way down low on the food chain.
Right. Yeah, and our tool use and the ability to use and make weapons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
right.
That's the only thing that sets us apart. That's what makes us where we are in the food chain.
But the thing about it is what a lot of people fail to realize. Like, Robbie, you and I are both pretty good shots. I would say both of us, probably because of our career paths, are above average when it comes to marksmanship. If they drop the two of us off in Denali National Park with weapons of our choice, we would still be on the defensive, because even up there, armed to the teeth, we would still not be the top of the food chain. There would be things up there that can and will eat you given the opportunity. And that's not even counting cryptids. That's just grizzly bears and other large predators. Packs of wolves. There are things up there, wolverines. There are things that'll kill and eat you. So even armed to the teeth, there are armed hunters go missing in Alaska all the time. So just because you're armed and think you're the top of the food chain doesn't necessarily mean you are. Corey Cole says they come with built-in night vision. Absolutely. John Wayne Gates says DA, when's a new book coming out? More audio books, hopefully more audio soon. I was talking to Cam a couple weeks ago, and he was working on trying to get one wrapped up and released. I'll give him a holler this week and ask him what's going on. I'm getting ready to release a compilation of short stories, tentatively titled "Murder in Moon Valley." Hopefully, I'll have that out in the next week or so. If you're a member of the Patreon community, you can read a lot of the stories that are in that short story compilation. They're already available on the Patreon for anybody that wants to check them out. Northwoods is right. Yeah, Moose will kill you. Moose will stomp you to death. But if you're a member of the Patreon, you can read a lot of those stories available right now. But one thing to bear in mind is I put those up on the Patreon before they went to edits. That's the raw story. So there will be some changes when they actually reach the book. They might be subtle. They might just be some spelling changes and things like that. But there will be things changed in those stories by the time they reach the actual print book. So if you're a member of the Patreon, you'll still want to probably pick those books up, because, like I said, there will be some changes. Pandora BVV says wild orangutans in the jungles use tongue clicks and cupped hands to amplify their click calls. There we go. Primates using tongue clicks. David, tell me you didn't know about. Don't tell me you didn't know about Cam doing those wild hunt. Post the link. Yeah, Cam's got 2 of them and almost has the 3rd one done. He also has one of the apex predators too.
Yep. And he's working on. Wasn't he working on Blood Eagle?
He's working on he's working on Operation Blood Eagle. Then he wants to get to the first Dark Frontiers. He said he doesn't know why. He just really likes the Dark Frontiers series. But David, if you can follow those links, you can listen to 3 different books for free over on Cam's channel. David, you can. If you've got YouTube Premium, you can download videos to watch later off of YouTube. And I get YouTube Premium just because it means I don't have to watch any YouTube commercials. And it's not expensive. It's like $20 a month. And you get, you don't have any commercials. You can watch podcasts and listen to music. You can set playlists, and it's to me it's worth having because mainly just for the commercials, because I hate commercials. But yeah, YouTube Premium, and in your subscription, you get like 4 logins. So if you've got a family with kids, everybody could have their own membership. Yeah, it's 4 or 5. I can't remember which one it is. Noah could tell me, but to me, it's totally worth it because if you've got 5 people on it, you could give out 5 different logins. It works out to be about $4 a piece, $3 a piece.
Yeah.
Roxanne says, I finally got the premium. I love it. I do too. And I listen to music constantly when I write. So I set up my playlists ahead of time, and I'll just log into YouTube Music and pick a playlist and start writing. Noah says I was doing something for work. Sorry, bud. Don Donaldson says, reading Lakeview Man for the 4th time. That's awesome, dude. Thank you. To me, as a writer, that's one of the best compliments I can get is somebody enjoyed one of the books enough that they want to read it more than once. To me, that's just huge. And I love hearing that. Thank you so much for that. Miss Laney's right. Lakeview is on Audible. Eli from Small Town Monsters is the one that narrated Lakeview Man.
Bless his heart.
Noah, wait, what can I tell you about? How many memberships you get with the YouTube Premium? I couldn't remember. I can't remember if it was 4 or 5. I thought it was 5. Northwood says, before I can get any more books, I need to build a new bookshelf. Kay Bauer says, D, I've been meaning to ask you, is there more than one way a Wild Hunt t-shirt is printed? The one I got is already faded. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not real happy with Teespring. Noah and I are going to be changing. When I know we said we were going to do this a while back, but we just kind of didn't get around to it. It was one of those things that kind of went by the wayside when I got sick. But we've already found another hosting. We're getting ready to start importing the designs and putting up some new designs over on this new platform. So as soon as we have, and they're a lot better quality than Teespring. I've gotten several of the Teespring items myself, and I wasn't real impressed with the quality of the stuff from Teespring. The quality of the materials, the shirts was pretty good, but the quality of the printing was at best. So this new one is going to be much better quality, and as soon as it goes live, we'll let you all know. And then at that, we're going to leave the current Teespring store up until the new one is online. And once that's online, we'll slowly phase out the Teespring. Yeah, you'll start by seeing certain designs disappear, and then eventually the Teespring store will just go away. Pandora BVV says, DA, when can we expect the next book narration collab with Cam of Dixie Cryptid? Cam and I have got a lot of projects working on together. I need to get a hold of him and let him know that Demons Part 1 and 2 are done. I know he was looking forward to doing the Margolin short stories. So I'm going to send those to him. In fact, I'll probably email both of those to him tonight. And then I'll probably just give him a call tomorrow. But yeah, look for a lot of projects coming up, because Cam said he's getting to the point where he's not taking outside work so much anymore. And he was hoping by summer that he would be done primarily with the bulk of the jobs that he has to do, and he could just concentrate on doing his channel and narrating books and audio. And if that be the case, I got enough to keep the man busy for a while. Everybody says I only wear pocket t-shirts and zipper hoodies. I don't know if they've got pocket t-shirts on this new one. I hope they do, because I like pocket tees myself. But we do have some new designs we're planning planning on having, and we'll probably import some of the old designs, but a lot of them are probably going to go away. But I think you guys will be pretty happy when the new store is up, because it's the quality of the merch is going to be much better, I think. See if I missed any questions. Sorry. Holy crap, we've been on an hour and 40 minutes already. Holy smolians. You know, we need to start doing the affiliate programs like every half hour, so we don't have to cram them all in at the end of the show.
Well, you know, we've talked about doing that several times, and we've just
never done it.
No.
I think I'm gonna write that on a Post-it note and stick it to my monitor or button up next to my camera.
There's been a lot of things we've said, we got to start doing this, and then we don't talk about it again until we talk about it. And then we're like, we got to start doing this, and then we.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that's definitely on the agenda. I need to start making sure we're doing that so we don't have to like literally cram them all in at the end of the show. David Bice says, I've been happy with the mugs I bought on Teespring. That's awesome. I've got a couple of the mugs off there too. The drinkware was pretty good quality, but the t-shirts and some of the hoodies were not as good as I wanted them to be. And Ripfit says, you know what they say, gents, time flies when you're having fun. I've been having a good time tonight. Oh, yeah. I enjoyed talking about this. Yeah, folks, if you know, no matter what state you live in, and we had a couple folks that were here from Canada, or if you're from anywhere else in the world, do a little online searching or check with your local library or whatever, and see if it looks like you've got campgrounds closing in your area, or wildlife management areas or national parks that have suddenly become off limits. Because I think we're noticing it. I think we're starting to stumble onto a trend here. I think that that we've just inadvertently kind of found an aha moment. And it just another, like Robbie was saying, it's just another weird piece of the puzzle that we're not quite sure where it fits in yet, but I'm pretty sure it does fit in somewhere. Arlen Neal says, I have 13 of your books, DA. I just finished reading The Dark Frontier for the 4th time. I love the story of Declan Cain. Well, thank you. I'm working on the 3rd installment of the Declan Cain series now. It's going to be called Cry of the Wendigo. And I'm about 30,000 words into it. I'm going to try my best to get it finished before the end of the month. John Wayne Gates says, I need a Wild Hunt patches for my shooting coat. We're kind of low on those right now. We are working on getting more patches made. The question is, you know, the cash to get them made, because it's not cheap to get them made. And unfortunately, I've had a bunch of medical bills over the last 4 or 5 months, and that's kind of tapped us out on a lot of stuff. So I will get those back in as soon as I can. You know, you would think that a writer would make a lot of money, but if Stephen King woke up with my sales tomorrow, you'd probably find him hanging from his shower curtain rod. Granted, I've got a good following. I love the followers of the books and the people that enjoy my books, but I don't have the following of like a Stephen King or a Dean Koontz, and I wish I did, because then I'd be like, hey Robbie, let's take the month of July off and go cryptid hunting. I would do crap like that, and I would roll up with a freaking kitted out RV from Global Explorers here in Springfield. Get us a couple of those bastards with kitted out with whatever electronics we needed and low light gear, and we'd roll into the LBL and find something. Dave Bauer says Clark and Doc was making them Wendigos cry. Arlen Neal says, I have both Dark Frontiers and I've read them both. I can't wait for book number 3. I hope to have it in edits before the end of the month. Northwood's, absolutely right. Good patches are not inexpensive to get your hands on. And the ones we got made for the Wild Hunt were PVC patches, so they're really high quality and they should last a very long time. So I'm going to go through the same company again to get those made. So they're high quality patches, but it's a little bit of an outlay for me to order more.
Yeah. I've had mine on my vest for probably a year now,
Okay.
and it's, I mean, through woods and fights and all kinds of things, weather, and they hold up really, really good. So.
Allie's Cat says, didn't Reagan, I think that's defund parks, campgrounds, and military bases. There were quite a few military bases that were shut down under Clinton. But I can't, and I'm not picking, political sides one way or the other. There's been, funding moved around, but since Teddy Roosevelt created the National Park Service, nobody has ever tried to do away with them. So. Bobby, did I lose you? Yep, your audio went dead. I've reached the point in the show where Robbie's audio dies. Robbie will be right back. Miss Lenace's book 3 is going to go to number 1, 2, mark it down. I hope you're right. I really do. I was thrilled to death that both of the Wild Dark Frontiers books have gone to number 1 in their categories, which really thrills me to death. But I'm hoping the third one does it as well. Miss Lenace's dang satellite. Yeah. Corey Cole says my chat keeps freezing up. I'm not entirely sure what's causing it. Oh, we got Noah. We had Noah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, gotcha. Well, I was going to say something, and then you disappeared, and I kind of lost my train of thought. No, that startled me. Sorry, bud. What was that? Mrs. Moon says, when I lived in California, loads of small campgrounds. I get campgrounds closed. And something else I thought of too. I should probably look into not just ones that are owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. There's a whole slew of privately owned campgrounds in Missouri. Well, I need to look in to see how many of those have gone dark. No problem, Mrs. Moon. I figured that's what you meant.
Well, like we said, it's not the glitz and glamour ones that are closing anyway.
Right.
It's the primitive, and there again, it's that piece of the puzzle that why does it fit in? I don't know. But
yeah, I couldn't even tell you how
maybe we'll be able to
begin to
find
fit in, but I think we have definitely found a puzzle piece. Smowers says Noah got caught with the camera. Good thing he wasn't doing anything crazy like Joe Dirt in the sink or something. Oh, that's funny. I'm hoping this week or maybe first of next week that Noah and I can get to more of those campgrounds. I want to go back down to Big Bay during the day. We got down there after sundown last time. It was creepy as hell. And we are going to post that video. Only thing I saw that I know for sure that I saw eye shine in the trees, and it was pretty high up, like 8 to 10 feet. I don't know if it got caught on camera. Noah was filming and I was pointing where he needed to film. So I don't know if he caught it. Haven't had a chance to go through the video, but again, when we get the video up, if you guys do get a chance to watch it and you see anything even suspect, make sure to post in the comment what you saw and what time index so we can go and pull the video. I want to look at the exact time indexes because it's very difficult to go through those frame by frame. And then, what I see, someone else might not see, or I might miss something entirely. That's the way it was with the first Joe Bald video. I didn't see a damn thing in it for over a year. It wasn't until somebody else pointed to the movement out that we even knew there's something even there. So you never know. We might have caught something on film and just don't know. The only thing I can say for absolute certain is it was as quiet as the proverbial grave down there. No night sounds whatsoever. Casey Calloway says, are the campgrounds that are closing around larger tracts of timber? Yeah, one of them, the Big Bay, the one we were talking about, is in the Mark Twain National Forest. Every one of these campgrounds that we've talked about so far are surrounded by thick woods. Greg Price says, D, I still remember your Dogman photo. Yeah, it's creepy as hell. I do believe we caught something. I think it was a Dogman personally. But I'm not going to put that out there and claim it's definitive proof, because I've had people that watched the video and said they didn't see anything, even after we highlighted it. So, to each their own. I'm not going to cast dispersions on anybody, but I firmly believe we caught a Dogman on camera that night. Cool. That is awesome.
Three little likes. Yeah, that video, if you watch it and then you go stand literally 20 feet away from where it was filmed, that's surreal.
It's one thing to watch that video. It's quite another thing to be in that park, especially after dark.
Mm-hmm.
That entire peninsula is creepy, but when you get out in the campground itself, it's almost otherworldly. It is like turn it up to 11 on the creepiness factor.
There are those who would call us stupid for doing that, but it is what it is.
Greg Price, he says, I think some of those closures are at least budget related. Not saying others aren't cryptid related. Anything is possible, and it very well could be budget issues. But the thing about it is in the summertime, every one of those parks were busy, so they were making money every night.
It's primitive, so they didn't have what were.
Yeah, the only thing they were out is just the cost of having people go in and keep the bushes trimmed back, and the grass cut in some areas.
It's not like they had a big bathroom facility to keep clean and, power bills.
Yeah, I can accept the budget issues to a certain extent, but not on these primitive campgrounds where it really wasn't costing them anything. And the only personnel they had there was like one dude at the front that was renting campsites. So it's not like it was a personnel issue. It's not like they were spending tons of money to keep it open. And even 25 years after Joe Bald closed, the roads are still drivable. So it's not like they really needed to do a ton of renovations to keep that park open.
Yeah, I mean,
no, down there just the other day, and we were looking at some of those campsites, and I'm like, dude, we could literally back into this campsite and throw a tent because they were in great shape.
Yeah, I mean,
over 200. That is awesome. Thank y'all.
I mean, we were even talking about that when we were driving through there. It was like, there's literally, other than it being overgrown in places, and there were some places it wasn't even overgrown in. Right. Some places you could have literally gone in and set up a camp, which we did see people down there camping. But literally, some places, but some places were.
I would love to have sat and chatted with that guy, but I saw the campsite, but I didn't see the guy. So I would love to have talked to the guy.
Those are ones out there in the water, which. They call us stupid. Yeah, I was about to say they call us stupid for standing out there at night. I'd a whole lot rather stood out there at night than been out there in that cold ass water.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd want to swim in Table Rock unless it was a dead of summer, because that water is cold. Let's go ahead and hear a word from Doc. We're not wrapping the show up. I just thought I'd space these out while we're talking. So let's go ahead and hear a word from Doc at Dark Angel Medical, and then we'll go on talking for a bit. Here he is, the little man himself.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Dot Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
And if you go to darkangelmedical.com, don't forget to use discount code Cryptid25 for 25% off your order. You can just go to darkangelmedical.com, or you can use the link right there on the screen. And remember that if you're a first responder, his classes and kits are HSA and FSA eligible. So definitely, go check out Dark Angel Medical and tell them we sent you. Now, what was I saying about Joe Bald? The creep factor down there is just weird. And anytime I've tried to talk to the locals, they either just change the subject if you bring up Bigfoot or Dogman, or just won't talk to you. There's 2 or 3 of them just like, wait, I would like, hey, how's it going? Try to start up a conversation, and they just smile and walk off. I'm like, all right, I guess they didn't want to chat. But then there's always that, well, if you're down there in the day, there's always someone that lives just outside Joe Bald that has taken it upon himself to be like the police down there, and he drives through on his little golf cart. Yep. And he won't talk to you, but he'll drive by and give you the stink eye like you're not supposed to be there.
Yeah, he did that several times that day we was out there.
But it's been a while since I've seen a police car down there. I have seen Stone County deputies down there, but it has been a while. And it is outside Kimberling city limits, so you're not going to see Kimberling City PD down there. If anything, if there's law enforcement down there at all, it's going to be Stone County or maybe Missouri State Highway Patrol. But I don't think you're going to get the hypo that far from a highway.
No chance of seeing Officer Meadows and his K9.
You just might. You never know.
Officer Bryce Meadows. K9 Rocco.
Somebody's read Lakeview Man a few times.
Anybody know? I was just about to say, anybody know where that's coming from? I want to see how many people do it, but yeah.
Sorry, let the cat out of the bag.
I've read it. I think at last count 20 times.
You've read that book 20 times? Good Lord, dude. I bet your copy of the book's about wore out.
I've read that 20. I've probably read Odin's Call 25 or more.
Well, it was because of one scene in Odin's Call, how you and I met.
Yep.
Hand them in for me mentioning them swaying back and forth. And that sparked that memory with your encounter, and you reached out to me. And had that one line not been in there, you and I never would have met.
Nope, probably not.
Weird how little details like that cause big changes.
I didn't even read the fact that you were a former police officer. I didn't know that till you told me that in your responding email to me. And so that, had you not responded to that and said this, and we just kept, because I tell people, one email turned into 2, and 2 turned into 12, and 12 turned into phone calls, and then the story, and then, hey, won't you just come on and tell your story? Okay. Now look,
you were kind of like a deer in the headlights that first night.
Oh, I was. I didn't know what to do. I still don't know what to do. I ain't like.
We're both just kind of winging it.
Yeah.
Paramedic says even some of Oklahoma's parks on the lakes are closed during some of those government shutdowns and never reopened. The tribe stepped up and bought several, as well as several historical places. The city of Kimberling City, Missouri, tried to buy Joe Bald, and they were basically, in no uncertain terms, told to piss off by the water patrol, by the the Army Corps of Engineers. They refused to sell it. So, and that's another weird part about it. On a lake where vacation properties, half an acre is north of $100,000 for half an acre. This is valuable land. And again, 25 years ago when they closed Joe Bald, you could get land pretty cheap. But now the cost of land down there has skyrocketed. So if they had closed that down only to wait for the land value to raise, now would be the time to sell it. And also, they could have done that without ever closing the park, and it was still making money. I mean, that park was full all the time. There were always campers down there, especially fishermen on Table Rock Lake. So, why cut down? Because the operating costs had to be practically nothing. Why shut down a campground that is making money to let it set fallow for 25 years if you're going to just sell it off? They could have had that thing in operation this whole 25 years and then went, oh, well, we're closing it. We're selling off the land. And nobody would have batted an eye. But to let that just set wild and refuse to let anybody come in on it, it's just really bizarre. And another weird part, and Noah can attest to this, and so can David By, who's in the chat, is about 6 months ago or maybe a year ago, they were talking about trying to reopen that again. They were building a marina down there. Then when me and Robbie and Noah went back down there, every trace of that marina was gone, and it was almost done when Noah and I saw it.
That's where we found that.
Hey, Fred.
3-inch piece of PVC pipe that was twisted and snapped.
Fred's in the chat. What's up, Fred? Yep. How you doing, dude? Yeah, we found pieces that showed that they've done some construction down there, but that entire thing was gone, lock, stock, and barrel.
Did you finally thaw out up there, Fred, or did it get colder again?
It's Alaska. It's probably still cold.
Well, that's what he said. He said he could go to bed and it'd be 60 and wake up and it'd be -15. That's a...
Hey, Bowers says, DA, I'm surprised they haven't tried selling those parks to China or Bill Gates. Honestly, I think there's a reason they won't sell them. I think there's still something there. Robbie and I found those, well, and Noah was there too, found those gigantic freaking electrical boxes in a campground that was all primitive camping. There were no power hookups for RVs or anything. That was just if you pack it in or you don't have it. They have hooks, they have poles with hooks on them where you could hang a lantern, and that was about it. Your only source of light was what you brought with you. It just astounds me why these two gigantic freaking electrical boxes. What were you saying? You thought it was that someone was saying that it was capable of carrying 440 or something like that?
Yeah, it looked like 3-phase to me, which is because the wire was probably about 2.5 inches thick, so it's above 220. So somebody help me out.
Super chat from Mrs. Moon. Hey, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that.
But it definitely looked like 3-phase.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah, it was not just, like you would plug in a radio or plug in, just anything that you would normally use in the house. It'd probably be, along the terms of what you would need for a dryer or a really large air conditioner.
Those boxes like that with that size wire, and Noah can tell you that. I know you were staying with a car, but Noah can tell you that there was like 4 or 5 of those wires that just went straight down to the ground, and I mean they were deep, and it wasn't like they were whatever that box was going to, or wherever those wires were coming from. It was deep, and it was to power something big.
Roxanne says, DA, could there be an underground facility at Joe Bald? That's kind of what we were thinking. That when when Jessica Jones remote viewed Joe Bald, she said she believed that there was something under there. And is considering the number of caves there are in the state of Missouri, it would not surprise me if there's a cavern under Joe Bald.
Well,
I've been all over that place and I can't find any way to access it.
I talked to Jessica about that at the last weekend at the Georgia conference. I actually talked to her about us going out there and us finding that. And she, before I even said anything, she goes, "I told y'all there was something underground out there." I said, "Well, I don't know what else those power boxes would have been out there for. It's a primitive campsite.
Okay.
There was nothing to be powered. So who knows?"
David By says Saturday Steve said 443 phase.
Yeah,
they were not small.
I knew it was bigger than 220, and I was almost 100% sure that it was 3-phase, because my dad's got 3-phase in his shop to power most of his big CNC machines. So I've seen what he has to have to set that up. So I knew it had to be that.
Yeah, that's to power something pretty damn big.
And that was on. We saw more than one box. We saw at least 2, and that's just what we saw. Now, obviously, the one that me and Noah walked up to was had seen better days, but the
that one looked like somebody had busted it up. But the other one was intact.
Yeah. No core, no air intake. Not on the one that me and Noah went and looked at. It was just one of those big green junction boxes with lines coming through it.
Greg Price says sounds like the kind of thing for security fencing, but where's the fencing? There's no fences down there. This was a primitive campground that had no electricity running to any of the campsites. And even if they had like a central building for bathrooms and stuff, which I've never seen down there, even if they had a central building for public bathrooms, it wouldn't need that kind of power. That is something far bigger than just a building.
This was some kind of, maybe like a step-down transformer or something, because it had 3-phase coming in, but there were some, Noah, correct me if I'm wrong, but there were some smaller wires mixed in with there, but maybe it was like a step-down for where, the 3-phase comes in and they have to step some of it down for other things. I don't know. But that's what it looked like, was one of those big ground transformers.
And if that was there for people to hook up to, there were no hookups anywhere on this. They only had power. Only power lines were leading into the ground.
I think I still got one of the picture of that though, DA. Let me see if I got it.
Dr. 45120 says, what household appliance requires 440? Nothing that I know of. I mean, even electric dryers only take 220.
My welder only takes 220.
Paramedic says they may have had one for a camp host. Where the host site is at the very entrance of the park, and there was a little electric box that was over there by it. It was busted, so we figured that was the electric box for the gate guard. But these were not anywhere near it. These were farther down into the park. They were the only campsites they were close to were all primitive sites. There were no buildings down by any of them. The only thing that was even close to one of them was the dump site where you could pull in and purge your black tanks on your RV, just the dump site, and that wasn't powered. It doesn't require it. Corey Cole says a large grow operation. I could see that, but there's no evidence of anything like that down at Joe Bald.
Most marijuana growers are not going to put this kind. I'm sending the pictures to DA now. They're not going to put this much effort into something like that.
This is the busted one. I don't know that we took pictures of the second one.
No, we didn't, because we were in the car and we saw the second one. but it's and we were laughing about it. But as me and Noah were walking up to it, I said, "Well, it'd be good if we walked up there and to know, because we were kind of like, well, maybe it's a smoker, maybe it's a grill, maybe it's this, maybe it's that." I said, it'd be good if we walked up there and there was something on it that said danger, high voltage, and that orange sticker on top says danger, high voltage. I looked at Noah, I said, well, here's your sign.
Marked number 25. So
Yep.
Does that mean there's 24 others of those in the park? Because if so, I've never seen them.
And
I need to go back down there.
Yeah.
And Noah says, Robbie and I were both like, well, I'll be damned.
Yeah. That's
Brian Barber says 440 is like what a factory or a fruit processing plant uses. Yeah, that's pushing some serious power, far more than a little campground would need.
Yeah. Like I said, my dad's got 3-phase in his shop, but he's got 5 big CNC machines. One of the biggest lathes you can have, metal lathes. He's got all kinds of welder. I mean, he's got like an industrial fab shop pretty much, and he's got 3-phase to run a lot of his machines.
Greg says meth cookers. No, your typical meth lab is what's called a shaker bottle and doesn't require power. It just requires the right chemicals and a bottle and a 2-liter bottle.
And I will say this, and this has happened since DA's been out. The meth lab in houses and things like that, that's kind of gone by the wayside now. Mobile labs are where most people are going to now, and that's in cars. Yeah, that's in cars, like what he was just talking about. That's what you're seeing nowadays. You're not seeing a whole lot in houses anymore. The days of the fixed meth lab are almost completely gone. I don't know if Steve's in the chat, and I haven't seen him, but I don't know if he can speak for his area. But I'm telling all over my area, I can't remember the last time that I heard them actually have to go to a meth lab. It's usually we stop a car that's got something in it, and we have to call them out to the car.
Yeah, we were being told to keep an eye out for mobile labs when I was still in, but it wasn't uncommon to walk up on one. It was a trailer house that was a full blown meth lab, or even much like on Breaking Bad, an RV or a camper out in the woods would be a meth lab.
Yeah, but
you had to be real careful walking up on one of them damn things.
But those things were not decoys. They were not they were not doing out there doing anything, because like I said, the box was there and it was pulled up, but the wire was right beside where the box was, and it was still there in the ground going straight down to wherever it was going to. So this was not a decoy. These were not set up to do any, it is what it is. It was an old abandoned transformer, power box, whatever you want to call it. That's what it was.
Yeah. Well, we're still going strong at 2 hours and almost 15 minutes. Robbie, why don't you tell us a little bit about Scallywag Tactical, then we'll go on a little bit more.
Sure, let me get my S word out here. Scallywag Tactical is another one of our affiliate sponsors. Make some of the best blades, and you've already seen the Jolly Rogers earlier tonight. They make some of the best blades you ever put your hands on, and that's, to me,
part of my field gear every day.
Yep. To me, that is the benchmark of a good knife. Is if you want to pick it up and you want to hold it and it feels good in your hand, that to me is what makes a good knife a great knife. I've got knives that, are really high quality knives, are made really well, but they're not comfortable to use. They're kind of awkward. They're weighted wrong, just whatever the case may be. These knives, this thing's heavy, but it feels, once you get it in
really
your
well
hand,
balanced.
Yes, it is Very well balanced. Craig and his guys do an excellent job with their specs, and like the Karambit, the DA's got. I carry that on my body armor. That's my, if you know what breaks bad. Somebody's going for my gun, they're gonna get the Karambit. This is my, if I'm in the woods and all you know what breaks loose. This makes Crocodile Dundee's knife look like a toothpick. So with that thing, that is called the boarding axe. They've got all kinds of blades like this, and the boarding axe, and the gunner's mate, the dew claw, the razor folder, the razor, kitchen knives, fillet knives that you put in your tackle box. You name it, they make it. They've even got their what they call scally swag, whiskey glasses. What else?
The fillet and knife.
Yep, that's the bad fish.
And boys, if you get this for your tackle box, boys and ladies, if you fish, beware, because this thing is stupid sharp.
Yeah. Hold that thought. People usually think a big knife like this, like a machete or something like this, is not sharp. I have never held something this size that would do that.
Yeah, that thing is crazy sharp.
That'll do a number on you, folks. And DA showing some of the Scally swag. So hop on over to Scallywag Tactical, look around, hit up the blemish blade section, put you some knives in your shopping cart. Then when you go to the checkout, use code DA Roberts 10, get yourself an extra 10% off, and that does stack up with any of the sales, blemish blades, any of the other sales they're doing. It stacks up, so they'll take care of you. Craig he wants to make customers for life, and he'll do his best to do that.
He definitely does.
And Steve will attest to that. I love to hear Steve's story about that. So that's all I got to say about that.
And if you're familiar with the books at all, I feature Scallywag in the books because I like to feature equipment that I actually use. Scallywag Tactical, I've got a ton of their knives, and there's not a bad one in the bunch. Every one of their knives is freaking awesome. And when I go in the field, you can ask Noah or Robbie, I probably got 3, maybe even 4 of them on me, between being on my pack or being in my medical kit or being on my belt. At any given time, I've got at least 2 on me, and probably more within quick reach. A good blade is an invaluable tool, and I always make sure I have one. Dave Bice says the saw teeth on the back of that machete are like actual saw teeth, not like most. Yeah, the saw teeth are sharp.
Yes, they are. I found out the hard way.
Got you with it?
I know that really shocks and surprises you.
Did you have your Dark Angel kit handy?
I did.
He says, crap, the heck with Bigfoot. I'd hate to meet the both of you in the woods with those weapons. Those are the up close and personal ones. It's the pew-pews that we carry that keep things at bay. Arkansas Hog Hunter says that'd be a good carry companion for my Gladius. Yeah, if you were looking for, and that's not a machete. The Scallywag does make a machete. You could probably use that for cutting wood, but I think it's more designed for limbs of another variety, if you take my hint.
Yeah,
but
this ain't made for tree limbs.
Yeah, it'd probably do it just fine, but that is more of a personal defense weapon.
It's made for them limbs.
Yeah.
Or they limbs.
Miss Lene says, scallywagged again, Robbie. Been scallywagged a time or two as well.
At least it wasn't on the air this time. Okay. Like it did when I dropped this and tried to catch it.
I've done it too, so you're not the only member of the club.
Oh, I know.
David By says the machete has saw teeth that look like carbides. I've got the machete. Oh, let me grab it. I'll show you the machete real quick since we're talking about it. Noah says, I think all three of us have been hit by scallywags once or twice. Yeah, this is the machete. It's got a wrist thong. But yeah, the teeth on the back of that, you can make pretty short work of sawing through a branch. This thing is the real deal. And that's the machete. I mean, but anyway, let's kind of head back the other direction. Robbie, what was your overall first impression of Joe Bald? And David By, I asked the same question when he was down here too. But what was your overall first impression when we hit Joe Bald?
Well, you asked me the same question that you asked Doc. You said when we headed down there, you was like, "Okay, I want you to tell me when or if you start feeling off, feel different, feel whatever." And I told you when I started feeling just something wasn't right or something was off, and you said me and Doc were. I think you said within, maybe a couple 100 yards of each other.
Yeah, pretty close to the same spot.
So, and then when I got there and I stepped out, obviously the first, you step out and you step out into that vacuum that I've talked about. It just kind of it resets your whole situational awareness, your senses, everything. I ain't gonna say I was on high alert, but I definitely had stepped up a notch or two. It wasn't just a normal everyday, hey, here we're gonna have fun. It was like, okay, there's something really off about this place. So I guess my first impression would be it was just not that it was off-putting, not that it was inhospitable. It was just something was off. Something was askew. However you want to look at it,
it is still a strangely beautiful place, though.
Yeah. You use a term my dad used to use. It's about half a bubble off plumb. Not completely so hokey that you just like, oh, I don't want to be here. I mean, I'm sure it probably affects some people that way. But it was just, yeah, Greg, just bad moto. It's just, you feel like, number one, I told Noah this, I told DA this, I said, I feel like we're being watched. I feel like we're being paced. And I've got that feeling when Johnny and I went up where we go up, Joe Cassie Trailhead, where we go all the time. Every time me and Johnny went up there, I felt like we've been paced in and out to a certain point. I felt that same way, that something was watching us and keeping an eye on us. And I'm not just talking about the 24-hour service fan. I'm talking about something else. Because I know they were keeping an eye on us. That was not a feeling. That was obvious what they were doing. But it just, there was just a presence. You could just, it was almost tangible. That you could almost feel it. Because when you said we're sitting there, and I think you realize how serious it was when you made the comment. You said, "Well, I never saw where the eye shine went," and I turned and looked at you. I said, "Because it didn't go anywhere.
It's still there.
Still there.
It's right back in there. It's bushes."
Yeah, because it didn't leave. I never felt like, when we walked around there and you said I got eye shine, and then we all moved around. You said I lost it. I don't know where it went, and I didn't hear you because it didn't, because it's still down there. And it was. I mean, there was no. was just matter of fact. I knew whatever it was still there watching us, just not where we could see it at that point. It went down in that little bird nest thing. I believe it in my heart that's where that thing was. Where we found that track the next day and found that little ambush site. That's where that thing was hunkered down watching us.
Because it knew we wouldn't be able to see it, not until we were right on it.
And credit to Noah, because my dumb ass was walking down that way. And I probably would have kept on going down there, but Noah reeled me back in. Thanks, Noah. Because Robbie, hey, dude, come on. You get a little too far away. Come on back. Come on back.
Hey, you were getting out there far enough where we couldn't get to you quick.
There's no dying on my watch, Robbie, all right?
Thank you, Noah. But I mean, and this, I was headed to it after I had this feeling that it was still there. I just that's me. I'm not the smartest when it comes to stuff like that. I always run towards the stuff when I should be running the other way. But it is what it is. You know how that is. You know how it is to be wired that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, just you feel like there's something there watching you the whole time. Even during the day, I felt like something was. While we were walking around, I felt like whatever it was still watching us somewhere.
And Big Bay has that same feeling. And I think it's going to be even worse if I can get back in the camping area.
And, it's like I told you, being in that area and, especially reading the book as many times as I have and actually see it, because I'm assuming a lot of people, when they read a book, are the same way. It's like a movie in your head, and I'm sitting there thinking about, okay, I know how this movie played out in my head when I read the book, but to actually see those spots and to think, hey, I'm standing almost where Daniel was when he found, what's his name's body?
Yeah, the deputy.
The other deputy, the one he ended up finding in the lake just down the way. And it's like, wow, this is just I'm literally almost the movie that I played in my mind. I'm in it right now. Because especially that night when we were out there that night and the feeling wasn't strong the next day that we were, because I felt like, there were people out there and whatever it was probably had moved on further back in the wood. It was still back where it could watch us, because me and Noah a couple times thought we saw movement up on top of that ridge that we were working our way around, and we heard some things that could have possibly been limbs breaking and things like that. So I feel like it was there, just it was further back. But now the night before, we were on top of it.
Probably not a testament to any of our intelligence that we go out there at night.
Yeah, well.
Oh. Ooh, we are coming up on the 2.5 hour mark. Probably ought to go ahead and talk about our third affiliate and start wrapping things up, as I know Robbie's got to get up at dark 30 for work. Yep. Robbie is still a uniformed policeman, and I don't want to keep him up too terribly late. But our third and final at the moment anyway affiliate is BrockBlades.com. And if you're not familiar with Brock Blades, Ken Brock is a retired cop who makes custom-made, handmade knives in the shop behind his house. Scallywag tactical knives are first-rate, but they are mass-produced knives. No two, you get two of those knives and they're going to be identical. No two blades that Ken makes will be identical. Both of these knives are listed as a skein dhu, which is an old Scottish utility knife that they wore with their kilts. But these, you can tell by looking at it, these blades are not identical. They're very different, but they're both the same type of knife. But they were handmade in the shop behind Ken's house. And you can look at BrockBlades.com and order any of the things he already has made, or you can order a custom knife. And the gift of a custom knife is something that'll be treasured by anybody that's an outdoorsman, a hunter, a fisherman. first responder of any type, veteran, active duty, but people that tend to do a lot of outdoor activities will treasure a good knife. And these are high quality knives that are meant to be used, not to be set on a shelf and look pretty. And we're pretty proud to support our first responders and veterans. So check out brockblades.com, and you can get 10% off your entire order by using the discount code Cryptid10. And if you do order a custom blade, make sure somewhere in there that you mentioned that you heard about Brock Blades here at DA Ex Machina, and he'll make certain you get your 10% off the custom orders as well. But definitely check out brockblades.com. And there's a reason we choose all of our first responders for our affiliates the way we do, is they're all either first responders or veterans or both. We're very proud to support our veteran and law enforcement community and our first responders, and it's something that's very near and dear to both Robbie and I, because Robbie, Steve, and Doc, all of us have served in one capacity or another. Steve was in law enforcement for a bit before he became a nurse. I was a career cop, served in the Army. Robbie's been a career cop since God was a corporal. Doc was a Air Force flight medic. He's been there, done that, and put bandages on all of it. But yeah, we've all put on a uniform for our country and put our butts on the line, and it's something that we're very proud of, and we're very proud of the folks who did it. We're very, very, very thankful for those who put their ass on the line and continue to do so for our safety and for our freedom. Which brings me to the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to veteran suicide. The 22 a Day Foundation is helping to provide services for not only therapy, but to reach out to veterans that are in desperate need. Because you never know, the buddy you have that you think is fine might be the one that needs it the most. So reach out to your friends and family that are first responders. Check out the Till Valhalla Project, because the Till Valhalla Project, 95% of what they make goes right back into veterans charities. They help get prosthetics for veterans. They help get service dogs. They get plaques for families. These guys are the real deal. These are veterans that are doing this for other veterans. A lot of these bigger charities, when they start getting so big, they're caught up in paying salaries for all their people. If you donate $100, you're lucky if $1 of it actually makes it to veterans. But 95 to 98% of everything Till Valhalla takes in goes right back into the veterans, and that's the way it ought to be. So I'm proud to support the Till Valhalla Project, and I'm 100% behind the 22 a Day Foundation. I've got my little bracelet that I wear all the time. This one and another one, but the other one's buried. I'd show you that one. But I'm usually wearing one or the other one. But 22 days is too many. So reach out to the folks that first responders or veterans or active duty, and let them know you're thinking about them, because your voice or your "Hey, how you doing?" or "Hey, do you want to grab a beer?" might be what keeps them off the edge, and because you never know who's struggling with their demons. Because we all do. We all struggle with our demons at times, and you need a network of people that care. And Doc and Steve and Robbie, those guys know I'm there anytime they need me, and I know the same with them. If I'm going through something, all I got to do is text somebody, and I got a phone call or video chat, or hell, wouldn't be surprised if one of them would just jump in the vehicle and come see me, because they're all within 10, 12 hours drive distance. That's nothing for us Midwesterners. But you just remember there are folks that care about you. And even if you don't want to talk about it, even if you don't want to talk about the demons that are eating you up inside, just having somebody there can make a world of difference. So veterans, don't be ashamed to reach out. I had to have therapy when I got hurt. It's especially people with a warrior mindset find it very difficult to reach out for help when they need it. They feel like it's a sign of weakness, or that their brothers and sisters in uniform will think less of them because they reached out. We won't. We will not in the slightest. If you don't want to have therapy with one of us over a beer and bitching about stuff, then see a counselor, and nobody's going to think of less of you for it. Take your mental health seriously. Again, 22 a day is 22 too many. And with that, we'll kind of start wrapping up the show. And here lately, we've been winding down the show with a toast, and I'm very proud of it, and something I want to continue to do. There's an old Irish drinking song called "The Parting Glass," and it's played at the close of night in Irish pubs all over the world. And when you hear it, it's kind of a lighthearted song, little melancholy, about saying goodnight and seeing everybody the next day. But when you really listen to the lyrics, when you listen to the song, it's about more than that. It's about raising a glass to those who are not with us anymore. It's about raising a glass and saying goodbye to those we've lost along the way. So if you guys will lift a glass, doesn't matter what it is, you can have, sweet tea or water or corn squeezins or whatever floats your boat. But just lift a glass of something with us as we close out the show with a toast. And the toast from the parting glass says this: "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night, and joy be to you all." Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Ex Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.